Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM, and if you're enjoying what you're seeing on the channel at the moment, how about giving this video a like and maybe subscribing to the channel to help us grow, and perhaps even check out our Patreon. Today I've returned to Poland to come and have a look at some of the plinth locomotives that are scattered around bits of the country. Now, Poland's preservation scene is very different to what we're used to in the UK and the USA, and having plinthed engines is a way of preserving locomotives that they're still going to be around for the future. So they're not really preserved in the sense that we'd see, but they're in no immediate danger of being scrapped. So with that, we're starting here in Bydgoszcz. First on our tour is this wonderful little 040 here at the Technical College in Bydgoszcz. Now, we know nothing about this engine. We think it's like 760mm gauge. It's a very large 040, it's a well tank, and it's amazingly complete. When we had a quick look inside the cab, everything is still there, which is quite unusual for these things. Normally a plinth engine, everything's taken away from it of value and put into store, whereas this, everything is there. It's also apparently recently had a cosmetic overhaul, mostly because the boiler cladding on it is made of stainless steel. There's a slight patch of it coming through. But it's really nice to see something like this, obviously cared for and important. Obviously, probably, maybe there's some significance, maybe it worked around here, maybe something to do with this area, not sure. But it's huge. I mean, I've driven standard gauge locomotives that are smaller than that. That's proper big. The other thing I really like is on the side of the steam pipes coming off the dome. So your main steam pipes going down to the cylinders, and then the steam pipes going up to the smoke box, there are like deflectors, presumably there to stop people from touching it and getting burnt. I don't really know. It's also unusual seeing it with buffers, because I'm used to narrow gauge stuff that just has a knuckler or something, but proper buffers, engine, mechanical lubricator. Everything appears to be in situ on this. It's pretty stunning. Also, interestingly, for a Polish engine, I can't see anywhere an air pump on it, so we assume it has no brakes. Also, we don't really know if we're allowed to be in here because we've walked into the college, so that's Loco 1. So we were on the way back to the car where I've parked in a dubious way that we're not honestly sure is legal or not, and then I saw a tram.
Yeah.
And I quite like trams.
We're now going this way.
Yeah, the car's over there.
Right.
Now, we're not sure if this is a tram depot or if this is also a monument. Is that what they call it?
Plinthed monument, yeah.
Yeah.
But it is bright yellow.
It is.
It's quite attractive and quite well painted.
That is a monument because that is not attached there. So, the second accidental find. This looks very modern.
Hang on, L-Blag.
What does that mean? That was a tram depot. Look, there's all the tram tracks there.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think that was the tram depot. You can see all the tracks and all the crossovers. So I reckon that was the depot itself that's now a jump-in place or a trampoline place, and that's kind of something to do with, hey look, this is our heritage. My favourite thing is the track that it's laid on. Just look at the bump there.
That is quite incredible. I mean, it's quite interesting actually to see the construction of tram track, and rather than having sleepers to support the track, you've got more sort of stretcher bars.
Oh yeah.
To keep it at the right distance, and it's presumed it's just the weight of it on the ground. Because of course, I guess if it's infilled, it doesn't really need ballast.
You done with the tram? I'm done with the tram.
I'm done with the tram.
I know nothing about trams apart from that's number 876. It's quite pretty. I love the headlights on the front.
Yes, it gives it a happy face.
It's good. Yeah, it's very happy, isn't it? Right, back to the car. So next on our trip is this amazing station. Now this isn't the Plinth building, but somewhere around here there's meant to be a Plinth locomotive.
Yeah.
My guide tells me.
Apparently there is. Seen some photos. There's a water tower over there, which despite this modern building, seems promising.
Well, yeah, because steam engine would be by a water tower.
Yes. So we're going to try that next.
The best thing about all of this though is the fact they forgot to put the middle bit of this building in. Let's try this one. I've never seen one of them before. It's like almost a flying banana in modern days.
With the pantograph.
Is it?
Yeah, on the right hand side, it's got a pantograph.
Oh yeah!
That is the ground clearance.
So low. And then the ultra modern thing next door. Oh! There it is. That was easy. That's the most hidden away locomotive I think I've ever seen. I'll be honest, in order to find this one, we had to go up to a policeman and be like, hello, English? And he was like, little, yeah, photo, steam engine, and he went, there.
And now we are here.
And now we are here, having walked 3 sides around the station. Station Square is slightly, it's not going to go anywhere in the future, is it? I don't know how they moved it before, but it's not going anywhere again. Having found it, this is a TKP1. Now, working on the Polish system, TK is tank engine, or a freight tank engine. P means it's an 080, and 1 means, well, this wasn't built here. This was built in 1915 in Königsberg in Germany. So when Polish State Railways, PKP, adopted or acquired locomotives that weren't designed and built in this country, rather than getting the year after its identifier, it just got, well, a number. So 1, this was the first one, or the first class, the first one of this type. This one is number 46, and what's particularly interesting, and the reason it's still here, is this one worked here at the depot. This ran around here, and what's particularly cool is there's a photo of it shunting wagons about in the very streets of the city. And I think that's very cool. Now, this had a cosmetic restoration back in 2016, and actually it's looking pretty good. On the other hand, it does show you that, where are we now? At the time of shooting this, that's 7 years ago. You see, this was really, really nice at one point, but sitting out here exposed to all the weather and the particularly cold and wet and very, very, very cold Polish winters, well, it's gone a bit pink and a bit rusty, and it frankly could do with that cosmetic restoration again. It is, however, substantially complete. Most of the stuff is still there in the cabin, everything else on the engine is still there. Now, these monuments are quite a popular way of preserving the history. It's just there as a reminder that this once worked here. And frankly, I think it's a very attractive engine. Obviously, it's not designed to go very far, but it gives a real impression of power. You can see the standard air pump on the side, the standard Polish headlights on the front as well. I quite like this, I'd have this. Sadly though, probably never to steam again. So we think that this building alongside it is something old and possibly kind of heritage-like.
Yeah, so from my rough translation of Polish, I believe this plaque says that this building was the first railway station in Bydgoszcz, and it was built in 1849.
I can read that bit. Anything else? Something 1979?
That was when the plaque was put out.
It's cold. Shall we, that's definitely old shed over there, isn't it?
Yeah, the sort of real distinct profile of roundhouse.
Part of it, anyway. And that was it for Plinthed Engines in Bydgoszcz. We were off to go film something else that you'll see in the future on the channel. But on another day, we travelled to Poznan. Well, this one was actually relatively easy to find because it's right outside the football stadium, and as soon as you drive towards the football stadium, you come across this. I cannot tell you how cold I am. It is snowing in the middle of the winter. It's sub-freezing, and I'm here looking at a TY51. So as with most Polish engines, the year is designated by the numbers at the end. So this was the end of Polish steam. This was the very culmination of all the designs and technology designed in 1951. This built on the technology from the engines that had arrived during the war. So that includes the German Kriegsloks, the TYs, and the American built like the S160s. This took all of this on board and produced one of the most powerful and largest engines to run in Poland. And as such, these were some of the last engines that were still working here outside things like Wolsztyn, with engines like this working, I think, sand trains is what they were doing. Now, you may be wondering why this is in front of a football stadium. Well, this has become their mascot. So we're not sure if they're known as this engine or if they're known as the Locomotives or something, but the mascot for Poznan football team is this. And as mascots go for football, that is very good, and I'm on board. I'm not normally a football supporter, but that is good. What I also like about this particular one is that at 7:25 every day, there is a light and sound show with this, and we think there are smoke that comes out the chimney. There's lights underneath to give the simulation. It makes whistles and stuff and does things. However, at 7 whatever in the evening, it will be dark and we will be long gone. But there we go. What's really sad is that this engine that's been taken away from the railway is in far better condition than when we last saw it, because this one used to be over at Wolsztyn, and if you've seen my video on the abandoned engines there, you know the condition of them, and this was very much one of them. So this being taken away from the railway, away from technically a museum, has resulted this being in far better cosmetic condition. In fact, it looks quite smart. Yes, it's missing several of its components. The connecting rods have disappeared, and various bits of the valve gear. But actually, this looks very, very smart indeed. It's one of the nicer engines that's out on display here in the country. The other slightly weird thing to note about this is the fact that it's actually on a gradient. Most of the engines we've come across so far are plinth somewhere on the level, whereas this one has got scotches in almost every single wheel and is resting slowly uphill. You would have thought with an engine that's this big, because it is truly massive, you would have put it on the level. And I appreciate the chances of it moving somewhere are pretty limited, but it just seems weird with it sat on the uphill. And there was no railway here either, so this had to be installed on a special purpose-built bit of track. It's a massive engine, and I think it's the largest plinth engine here in Poland. Do you know what this reminds me of and takes me back to? Looking at an old locomotive in the snow in a very grey environment. This takes me back to the scrapyard in China.
Oh yeah.
This is exactly how I feel looking at something like, oh, that's really sad, that's never going to do anything again, and being absolutely frozen. Now we're cheating today because rather than walking everywhere like we did in Bydgoszcz, we're going to use the car.
Thank God.
Although it's bracing being out in the snow.
It's atmospheric.
Yes.
It is lovely. Rather this than rain.
Yes, I'll give you that. What's the next one?
It's not too far away. I think that's the one at the Military Museum.
Ah, yes. Oh, another one that we've seen before.
Yes.
In the Tank Museum here in Poznan, we have the TP3. Now, this was a German-built locomotive, of which there were 1,054 built, which is a hell of a lot, which saw service all over Germany, Turkey and other countries. This is one of 45 that survived into Polish ownership and became a TP3. T meaning freight, P meaning it's an 080, and 3 being, well, we didn't build it, so it's just the third one of this type that we've got. Now, sadly, this is one of the best conditioned locomotives that's plinth all around Poland. Now, obviously, it's in a museum, so one would expect it, but without shadow of a doubt, this thing, it's complete, everything is clean, and the paint is fairly fresh on it. This one genuinely looks cared for in a museum, which, I mean, technically this one's cheating a bit because, yes, it is plinth, but it is inside a museum, whereas the other ones are just plinth. So this is a cheat, but it does look really, really superb. What a lovely thing this is. I find it kind of sad that one of the best preserved engines in Poland isn't actually in a railway museum. It's an important part telling the history of the military in this military/tank museum. But you would have thought this would have been kind of a side exhibit rather than, you know, something that's really looked after. It's also really interesting. This is an armoured wagon with steel plate on the inside and little holes, cutouts for you to put your guns in to shoot out of, which kind of shows the relevance of having an engine here, explaining the importance of engines, not just for moving the items of war, but also an armoured train. Right, the security man just came and spoke with us, and we think what we've done is parked in the wrong place, but regardless, we're going to move.
Yeah, let's go.
So we're passing a rather large religious building, because that was the mark. Oh, it's over there. I found it.
Nice.
Yes, that was our mark to find the locomotive, and it is just over there. As you can tell, it's snowing again, and this time the snow clouds are coming very heavily and it's getting dark rather rapidly.
You said again, it hasn't really stopped.
Well, it got a bit sleety, now it's more snowy again. This is TKT 48 number 130, so TK being a tank and T being a 282. Hidden away next door to a church with a coach attached to it in rather good condition. Recently, I think this has been here for about 3 years, and recently it's had a coat of paint, so it's quite nice and shiny and looks in pretty good nick. The con rods and connecting rods are there, although the return link is missing, and part of it looks in remarkably good and cared for condition, which again, this one is in the middle of a park. This isn't preserved, this isn't a museum or anything. This is in remarkably good and nice condition. I have no idea why it's here though. There are some bits that have been borrowed, like the end of the valves is missing, so obviously that was taken to work onto another one. Now these tank engines are very much a Polish design, and we're seen all over the Polish network working a variety of short trains. They have laughably short water tanks on the side as well. It's one of the things I really like about the design. My favourite thing about it though are all these welds it's got in the water tank. Obviously it's got these throughout its working life. When the tank started leaking, weld a new patch in, and I think that's just fantastic. The TKT is one of the Polish tanks. When you think Polish tank engines, this is it. Over 190 of these things were built in 2 batches, and this particular one, this was still working up to 1991. So this thing was still in steam and working within my lifetime. And I think that is absolutely fantastic. I'm glad it's still here, because it is a fantastic machine. You can't get into the cab and it's locked and welded shut, but from a quick poke up with the phone, yeah, it's pretty bare inside the cab, so that's already been robbed for bits for other ones, which is a shame, but the rest of it looks nice. But that's not the only engine that's here. Somewhere over here, apparently, there's another locomotive. Oh wait, no, it's just there. Yep, that's fine. That was an easy one to find, wasn't it? The final locomotive on our tour is this Bazelle Class. Now, this is a Polish shunting engine based on a pre-war design. After the war, they suddenly needed a lot of small shunting engines, and so this was what they built. Over 80 of them were produced on a variety of the narrow and the standard gauges, and this is one of the survivors. They exported them all over the world, including to places like Vietnam. Now, what I particularly like about this is it's sat on narrow gauge, and there's a standard gauge section there, and then the standard gauge section behind it. Somebody went, oh yeah, we'll have 2 engines here, and kind of put it together. This one doesn't look as good as the TKT behind it. The pipework has been removed and bits taken off it, and I particularly like the smoke box has 2 locks fitted to it to ensure people don't get in it. It certainly looks like it needs a little bit more love. I do like the fact that it has a chimney cap over it to keep it from rotting away. Clearly some thought was put into it, it just is overdue a little bit of attention. I particularly like how far out the front knuckler comes. I mean, can you imagine just trying to get that round a bend with the amount of overhang this must have had swinging around? All in all, it's a very attractive little tank engine, and you know, I'd quite like one of these. This is a proper sized little engine, and huge for the narrow gauge, absolutely massive. A beautiful thing. The cab on this one is also welded shut, and the glass on the side is all misted up, so I can't really see in, but it appears to have a fair amount of the control still in it, which is nice, but I suspect by the amount of stuff that's been taken off elsewhere, maybe not, but there is hope. I particularly like what a long wheelbase it is. It's quite a small engine, but that's a long wheelbase for a small shunting engine. It's such a hefty little thing. I really, really want something like this. I'd love to see something like this steam. It's just fantastic. But with that, that's basically it. This is a lot of how preservation is in Poland. There are engines like this dotted all over the country. This is a form of preservation. They're still here. They are somewhat looked after, and they are in no immediate danger of being scrapped. But it's certainly not preservation that most of us in the UK and wider world are used to. But it does mean that they are still here, and the future is possible that maybe one day something could happen for this to steam again. And with that, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this tour around some of Poland, seeing some of the engines. In the video description are the locations so you can find them for yourself. And with that, thank you for watching. Let me know if you've enjoyed it, and of course, if you have enjoyed this one, how about clicking somewhere over there for one of the videos we did on finding abandoned steam engines here in Poland, or down there for one of my other Polish adventures. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Now to get back to Blighty.